So would you be interested in, how are we going to use this, by the way? That's the correct answer. Well, let's go back to the basic pattern of hypnotherapy. We have PCAT, right? Say again? Oh, in a big way. So we've got the PCAT. So we've got to start with some kind of parameter. What's the problem? Well, I fear cats. Where does it happen? Well, I saw a little kitty walking out of the fridge and wasn't very happy, right? You bypass the critical factor. You can use the mind-bending language or the NAS, your non-awareness set, right, from this morning. Really, can you see how they're the same thing? Just let it all go. It's okay. Can you see how they're really the same thing? They're really the same thing. It's just that one evolves from the other, right? Then we have the resources, which is that state when you went, oh, what's that, right? And finally, you transform it. And then you want to, of course, test it, right? This whole thing, I'm going to use a diagram that's not my own. I'm using it with permission from John Overturf. Thank you very much, sir. It's a great diagram, and it explains how this whole thing works in terms of using it as a coaching thing, as a hypnotherapy thing, as a covert or overt hypnosis thing. Doesn't matter. So you have your problem here. Sad boy. Oh, not very happy, right? Then you do your mind-bending loops, and their heads goes, whoa, what's going on here, right? Up here, we've got something called a trance of infinite possibility. Infinite means infinite, which means it could be some good things happening, some bad things happening, some neutral things happening. And you probably experienced some of them when you went through someone said one of these mind-bending language patterns, and you went, huh? That's probably the neutral version of the tip. At other times, you burst out laughing. That would be positive version of the tip. At other times, you'd be going, oh, no. That might be a negative version of the tip. See how we're going? You can have anything. You can have anything. But it's just not going to be that. Because that's where you started from. You can never be what you started from again. Because you started from there, so you've got to go somewhere else, right? Now, once you're in the tip, basically, only one of three things can happen. Do you want to guess what those are? I just told you. Right. They could be happy. They could be, I don't know, confused. They could be, it's not working. Right? That's the only thing that could happen. Can you conceive of any other possible reaction than those three? I can't. So, if something positive is happening, if they're in a good state, what do? You attach it. So we have a problem here. We have our C here. We have our accessing of resources here. And right here, we're doing PCAT. It's just in a more visual sense, right? Now, if someone's neutral, guess what that means? They have the capacity that they didn't have before. Because when you're upset, you find it difficult to get access to good memories. But when you're like, I've got neither here nor there, you can go anywhere. So what do you ask someone when they're feeling neutral? Well, how do you want to be? Right? How do you feel when you, how would you know when you're feeling good? Ah, well, guess what? I'm there. Because I can't answer the question without going there. So if you get them there, then you transform it again. So it's the same step, really, just adding one more question, right? Now, what do you do if they're like, not happy, bunny? What do you reckon? Repeat. Wash, rinse, and repeat. And you keep going over and over and over again. Now, if you have persistence, what's more likely to exist? That or one of these? Because you just keep going until you get one resource that's strong enough to do the rest. You only have to win once, guys. And if you only win a small amount, you do it again, win a small amount again, until you hit the jackpot, baby. And you only have to hit the jackpot once, and you're away. They, on the other hand, have to maintain their problem every single time. Which do you think is harder? You see where we're going with this? So this is not my model. This belongs to John Overturf. But I think it's just a really nice way of describing what you're doing. And there are some questions we go with this, which are, again, John's questions, which, again, I think are elegant enough to just give you as they are because there's nothing you can add to them. Problem, what do you want to work through? The idea of through, and I quite like this is again John's idea, is that you don't work on something, because that means you can keep going on and on and on. You work through it, so you have a thing on the other side. It's just a little presupposition. When and where does it happen? That gives you a context. We call the context Z. How do you want to be different? How do you want to be? So that gives you your parameters. We've already talked about this, right? There's nothing new to what we've been talking about earlier on today. Everyone happy with that? Now, what do you want to work through tells you the I fear cat statement. You just have to get a statement you can lock onto. You know, when this happens, I feel like this. Because of that, I have this. Or whatever the wording is, whatever the phrasing is, it doesn't matter. You just get a nice compact version of it. And this then gives you the starting point for either a mind-bending language pattern loop or an NAS, a non-awareness set. If you really want to, you could actually use the dynamic mental imagery there instead. Works just as well, but it just it goes in the same direction, right? All you're doing is bypassing the critical factor, right? Now, the beauty of this model is that spontaneously they'll hit a space in which it's just as likely as not that they'll be in a positive resource. So the odds are in your favor because you can keep looping until you find one, right? So how do you know when you have one? Your classic question, how do you feel? What's happening now? How do you feel? I feel great. Well, is that a resource or not? Yes. I'd say so. So as you're feeling great, think of the context. Simple claps. It's just there. It's just happening together, right? What if they say, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. What do you say? That's right. You don't know, do you? You really don't know how you feel. But how do you want to feel? How do you really want to feel? That's right. That's right. And how do you know when you are? That's it. And as you feel like that, just think about the old problem and notice what happens. Now, was that difficult? All it took was being able to see things happening. And you can do that, right? You've been doing that for the last 3 days. Would I be incorrect in thinking that? That's a yes. That means I'm incorrect. So let's say now he goes, okay, I still don't feel good. Guess what? Still don't feel good is your new starting point. So how still can you be feeling good? That's right. It's happening again. Right? Huh? So how are you feeling now? Great. That's your only response. Okay, is he feeling this good? Think of that. And you're done. Then you go to the testing phase. We'll talk more about that later. But you see how this just simplifies the whole process into just a couple of questions. And if the question doesn't hit, so what? Because you're not going to run out of questions, are you? You have got a whole list of maneuvers that is going to generate more and more and more questions for you, right? Let's put that over here. Does that make sense? I think this is an elegant model. I think it's gorgeous. It fits into the PCAP model perfectly. And it's a very simple thing to do. You have to think of almost nothing. There's only one thing you have to think about, and that's whatever they just said last. And even someone like me, with a 3-second goldfish memory, can just about hang on to something that I heard about 3 seconds ago. Right? Do you have any questions about this? Go ahead.
What did you say when they said, I still don't feel good? How did you
then
transpose that so that it was
still don't feel good,
yeah.
Right? That's the new starting point. They might say anything. Well, they might say, actually, I feel pretty bad. Or actually, I'm thinking of cats and I'm feeling really bad, right? Or I still don't feel good, or, this is not the right thing, or, I don't like it, or I'm feeling anxious, or, the fear's gone, but I'm feeling really nervous now, right?
So you just start scrambling that sentence back to them?
Exactly.
But
so
what
that
did
becomes
you say?
the starting point.
I know, but what did you say when they said, I still don't feel good?
Oh, well, there are a million things. I can't remember. What did I say? How still can you be feeling good?
Thank you.
Right. Sorry, I didn't realize that was a simple question as that. But there's no rockets, there's no magic in that. That may work, it might not. You may have to go beyond that, right? Beyond feeling still, are you feeling good or not? Exactly. If you're not still, how good are you feeling? Right? Exactly. It's going to get worse and worse. Just accept it and go on. So do you see, like, there's nothing you need to prepare. There's nothing you need to prepare, and there's nothing you need to do other than shift their attention the moment you hear something come out of their mouth that isn't positive. Right? And you have loads of strategies, loads of ways of shifting that attention, right?
Yes. Will the mind-bending language cause the critical mind to think instead of getting confusion?
The critical mind to think, absolutely, but the beauty is, the critical mind, the critical factor, can only think about what it knows. And you're doing something that looks like it knows it, but doesn't really. So it's kind of like spinning its wheel going, huh? Beyond thinking about things you know, what don't you know yet, that when you understand it, will make it easy.
So the
right?
mind-bending language should not be logical, cannot be logical.
I didn't say that, because there's great logic in going beyond the mind-bending part and just using language. That's right. That's right. And notice what happened to you there. That was exactly what we're talking about. Now, how are you feeling right now?
Confused.
You are confused. But how's your body feeling?
Happy.
Your body's happy and your mind's confused?
Yes.
How does that work?
Yeah.
So you're feeling good about confusion. Something must be working. Maybe you know more than you thought you did if you just trust your body and let that do its thing. Because after all, you knew that's going to happen anyway, right? I've been warning you for 3 days. You can't say better than that, right?
But it is also possible that what we put through is so correct that it triggers the critical mind back.
Of course it's possible. Anything is possible, but it doesn't matter. Whatever happens, you have another choice, which is you do another loop, right? And usually the critical mind will be spinning. This is actually the critical factor right here. That's doing the spinning, turning thing, like, whoa, what's happening here? And you had a couple of examples of there. You know, we used it. It actually is logical. If you actually think about most of the things I said to you, rather than some of the other people here, they were a little less logical. But everything I said to you was actually quite logical. If you rewind the tape, at home you can do that. I'm sorry, you can't. Until you buy now the tape. But you've done so. Damn it. Send it to your friends. So that's logic and mind-bending language aren't exclusive. What you want is for the critical factor to not be able to attach onto it. And actually, the cool thing is, if it sounds really logical, but still has this structure, it's even better, because the mind's going to go nuts, because he knows it should make sense, but it can't make sense of it, because that's part of the problem, right? And that's when it's really elegant. That's when we get into advanced mind-bending language, but I don't want to blow that fuse just yet. Go ahead. Sorry, before we go, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
What else you're doing every single time that I can see is to turn it around or to go back up. You're always delivering it with a smile on your face, which gets them into the resource of smiling and happy.
Yes.
And if the rapport is strong enough, they have to follow you.
Yes.
So the language is connected to the physiology of the feeling that you're generating.
That's exactly right. Without this, none of this works. Without this, you're either a snake oil salesman or a mental violator. It's like, so what aren't you understanding about this thing before you go into that direction and do something else now? Right? If there's no positive intent, then you basically, the signals are going out is, I'm messing with you. It's like, you know, we're in school when someone said, go on, high five, psych, ah, right? That's the feeling people get because they think you're messing with them. You don't want that, right? So you need H+. Absolutely right. You need H+, or you're making a big mistake. Go ahead.
I realized that I can use this for addiction over the telephone.
Absolutely. You can use this for anything, especially the telephone. And there's a couple of you people here who had asked me about phone coaching before. This is the model, and it's not even mine, I'm sorry to say. I think it's a great model, but it's not mine. But it worked great. Can we have a microphone over here?
Just real quick, on the T, on the test part,
Yeah.
as your X, think of the R's resource.
So that's actually transformed. Testing is something slightly different. We'll come on to testing later. We haven't touched that yet.
Okay, so the X in the transformation aspect, if we look back...
So this is this thing here. So this, that's X. So how do you feel? I feel X. How do you want to feel? I want to feel X. How do you know when you're feeling X? You just feel it. Okay, so as you're feeling X, think of the context. So
if you come back to this diagram right here,
yeah,
then would the X be, that's the happiness?
That's the X. This or this, these are the X. So as you're feeling this, what happens here?
So you're attaching that.
So you're taking this and you're attaching it to this situation.
Okay.
So now this goes...
So coming back then to that line, it says think of R. Is that R?
Sorry, that's Z. Sorry. Think of Z.
Okay.
Z being the context.
Oh, okay, got it, okay.
So this here is defined by time and a place, a specific time and a specific place.
Got it.
Okay?
Got it, thanks.
Can you pass it forward to James?
It seems like if you could hit someone with one and then very quickly say, no, clear your mind, and then do another one, you would push into overload faster.
You could do, but actually I prefer to give them one and really make them think about it. Because when you think about things you can't, then what happens to your mind? I mean, really consider that. Right? I mean, really think about it. And this is quite logical. When you're thinking about things that you can't, what happens to your mind? And you probably won't be able to answer me in words, and that's fine. But just really fully consider that when you're thinking about something that you can't. What happens to your mind?
Goes unconscious.
That's right. And how are you feeling right now?
I feel good.
You do feel good, don't you? And as you feel this good, can you think about everything in your life at once?
There are infinite possibilities.
That's exactly right. Go right back up here again. Does that answer your question? You're very welcome. Does someone have a microphone over there, or are we going to come over here? Right behind you. Oh, look at that, you get 3.
So if we think about all possibilities as being this N, and we're thinking about this one negative state, so our language, our mind-bending language is always pointing to that N-1. So it's the entire university of possibilities less this one negative state.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So that's the mathematical representation. For those of you who have math phobia, don't think about the math. Consider the stars. There's one point, and it's not that one. Right? You've all been in a planetarium, right? So all he's saying is, when you point at one of those little dots, choose any one of the other ones, and go there. Right? That's kind of what you're saying.
Right.
Mathematically.
And so knowing that that's the objective, or setting that as the objective, then you let your own unconscious mind go free to generate representations of that objective.
Precisely. And then you use language to try and describe the path there. If it's over here, it might be, what aren't you seeing about the experience you're having that allows you to overcome it? If it's another path, it might be, what's not you that hasn't had this problem before you started this whole thing? Right? But I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm actually thinking of something specific. I'm thinking of a point right here that is outside of their realm of experience that happened at a time before their problem began and where there's a solution. That's actually what I'm thinking about. Now, I can describe that to you now, and you can follow that path, right? But I'm saying, what's not you that happened before this even occurred, which makes it feel good? Now, it sounds, but for me, it's really clear because I can see it. It's in my mental map. And this is how you don't get confused. You're not just throwing this is a mistake I used to make. When I first came across this, and this is my mistake, I thought I just had to find these really convoluted things the language will do, and cause, you've heard them, right? You've heard the big masters come up with these like, killer Uzi 9mm patterns, and you think, I've got to have one of those, right? I've got to get me an Uzi with whistles and things, right? And then you try and emulate them, and then you think that it doesn't sound right, it doesn't feel right, and then you're getting yourself confused, right? So you're doing this, only you probably end up here because you're thinking, like, it's not right. That's what I did anyway. So instead of doing that, don't worry about what comes out, just think about what is not there, and describe the path using your language. You have spatial language, you have syntax, you have non-awareness, you can imply stuff, you can negate stuff. Negation is a really nice one. You can revivify some experiences that they've had because you've had experiences before this one that made you feel good about not knowing the things that you were doing, but you know you were good